What's up, good people? What's up, good people? Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Let's little small splash of CP time. Nothing major. Nothing major. Let's get this thing started. Let's get this thing going. Got a good topic. This is one of my favorite topics as a non-religious person. I for some reason just get all warm and tingly inside when I talk about the church. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's the Holy Spirit trying to pull me back in. Who knows? Who knows? But we're about to be getting into that today. I see people coming on in the building. Make sure you hit the like button as you come in, whether you're catching it on the restream, whether you're catching it after it's uploaded, or you're catching it live right now. Hit the like button. Let's get ready to go. Let's get it.
Peace, folks. This is X from TPOT Media. Open your mind and wake your black ass up. You know what time it is. Hit that damn like button as you make your way in the door. Grab a seat, settle in, get ready. It's the Grown Man Hour with your host, my man, Bernard Riley.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mumia Obsidian Ali. You know who I am. I need no introduction, right? And you're listening to the Grown Man Hour with my man Bernard Riley, heard weekdays right here on YouTube. What do you think about that? How about that? Now let's get back on with the show. Thank you.
What's up, good people? What's up, good people? Welcome to the show. We are in the building. We are ready to go. I just ran down some stairs. I get so tired running up and down stairs nowadays. Shout out to the Early Bird Squad, those that make it in bright and early. I just spoke to Dr. Thunder in the back chat. So he's in the building. We'll be coming up momentarily. Captain Sicko in the building says, I've been waiting for this. That lady in the picture got a big butt. Oh, yeah, she do. Oh, yeah, she do. Drop it low for Jesus. Praise him. All right. She pulled up on Jesus like that. Jesus looking from the cross. It's a picture of Jesus, white Jesus, that where he's like looking like that, and it's like, black people make some of the worst memes. The meme, I guess, made by a woman. I can't explain it. You gotta see Jesus' face in the picture. How he was just looking like, but it said, I don't even want to explain this. It said, when you're taking them back shots and you cry out oh Jesus, and he actually show up. They got people be calling on the Lord. And some times where if he actually show up, they gonna be a little embarrassed. But anyway, Dusty Shackleford She pulled up on Jesus like that? Yeah, she did. She did. Oh, this gonna be good. Watch out for them devoted church members. Aaron B in the building. Cannon Wilds in the building. The Human Chapter in the building. Shout out to you, Vanta Black. Like Fanta? Okay, Vanta Black. Okay, shout out. Just being jazzy in the building. You took down the half-naked lady picture. Good for you. You're not showing your goodies online anymore. Wonderful. Wealthy Firefighter in the building says, who's gonna catch the Holy Ghost during the stream? Oh man, cut it out. SKC says something interesting. I'm trying to find that. He said he wondered why I don't get flagged or something. I don't know exactly what that is or what that about. Yeah, there it is. He said, I wonder why this song doesn't get a strike. It's not copywritten. The previous song, I think the original song that you gave me, not the Aloe Black song, but the original song used to play during the intro. That I forgot how that song go, but I loved it. It used to play during the countdown. That one used to get a strike, and this one doesn't for some reason. So I don't know. Can't explain that one. But yeah, I miss him. I got to bring up my guest, but he just said, God said ass is good. It's a funny scene in Vampire in Brooklyn when he was making the case, when he was posed, the vampire was posing as a pastor, making a case that evil is good. You can't have good without evil, so evil is good, and ass is good, and evil is good, and ass is good, and you mess around and get a piece of evil ass. Woo! That was. I used to love Vampire in Brooklyn. But two real quick things before I bring up my guest. I was remiss in shouting out my two newest Patreons, and I haven't been posting anything on Patreon. I'm about to get back started on that. So thank you to, I believe it says Rod and then the last name I'm not going to say, but I believe that's the Rod of God podcast who became a Patreon. So shout out to him. If it's not you, let me know so I can with proper attribution to the person who is a Patreon. I want to put up government names, even though this may be a government name, hopefully not. But Coffee and Sa, I don't know who that is. I don't know how to pronounce that, but thank you for becoming a Patreon. I do appreciate it. I will resume posting content on Patreon coming up. Well, probably beginning of next month. So I appreciate everybody posting on Patreon. And one real quick thing, last night on the stream, well, yesterday on the stream, I put AMC to the moon right there. And shout out to the good brother Sub-Zero, who 2 days ago, the day before we went on the air, I talked to him. We was talking about AMC. He rapped with me on some stuff. I was already kind of on AMC, had a little bit of money on it, but just a little bit, just because I heard it might do good. But he broke some stuff down to me right when me and him got off the phone. I went and put $2,000 on AMC, and instantly that day I made 500. You shouldn't be talking about your money on here because people figure out a way to steal from you. But and then yesterday I said, you know what? As based off everything that I looked up and I read, I went and put 2,000 more on there. I'm already up 1,000. So in less than 48 hours, I just made just 1,000 that fast on AMC. I am not a financial advisor. I am not telling you what to do with your money. I'm telling you what I did with my money. That's all. And so AMC is trending upward. It's trending upward. It's some technical reasons why that I'm not going to botch trying to explain. But all I'm saying, if you got a grand laying around, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. I'm just telling you what I did with mine. So I put $4,000 on AMC stock, and I made $1,000. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Not going to tell you what to do with your money. I'm just telling you what I did with mine. So yeah, by all means, consider that. Because this Manosphere is about brothers building and helping each other out. we don't just talk about pussy all day. But all right. All right. Without further ado, bringing up the man of the hour, Dr. Thunder in the building. Let's go. Are you there?
What's happening, man?
Man, another day, another good day at the office. Man. Give us a little bit of that organ you was hitting in the back, man. We need some of that. Hey, don't get me preaching up in here. Man. Welcome to the show.
All right.
Right on, man. I'm glad I didn't know he was going to do that when I was showing up late like I normally do. I showed up late and he was just in the back chat just playing. I was like, oh shoot, we need a little bit of that on the air. Need just a little bit of that on the air. So yeah, that was definitely good. Some of you may not know I was on Dr. Thunder's channel a little while ago, probably about I don't know if that was time flies. Was that about a month ago?
Yeah, it was about a month ago.
Yeah, about a month ago. Time flies. So get a chance, go over there and check that out. And moderators be dropping Dr. Thunder's link in the chat. Be dropping Dr. Thunder's links in the chat. Real quick, the corny question that I borrow from O'Shea just to get things started. How did you get into this whole YouTube thing? Your I don't like to give people the label Black Manosphere, but you're definitely around this thing. You definitely. So how did you get involved in this and in these discussions and all that's going on in this whole Black YouTube thing? How did you get started? And you could even take us back a little further and give a little pre-background before you started doing stuff on YouTube. Just give a little bit of background. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a musician by training. So Dr. Thunder, I actually have a real doctorate, and it's in music. I'm a tenured professor at a major university. I'm the director of jazz studies there, and I've been a lifelong church attender. So this topic that we're going to be discussing is kind of near and dear to me. I've seen a significant shift in sort of demographic in the Black church and in topics that are discussed with frequency and fervor from the pulpit. And I think that is very much responsible for the absence of Black men in church in mass. Now, there are churches that still have healthy male populations. And so I'm not here to say that is a 100%, of all Black churches are this way, but the numbers bear out that there has been a quite significant demographic shift. And as topics that I think address issues that Black men are in particular interested in, concerned about, and there's been a lot of finger wagging at Black men from the pulpit. Black men were like, hey, I got to do something else. In a very real way, in the same way that UPS created FedEx, I believe that the Black church created the Black Manosphere.
Whoa.
So, if you're out here looking for content to help you stuff like level up or to, invest well, I mean, you were given some investing. I know it's not advice, but you were saying what you were doing, what you're doing with your money.
Yeah.
But that kind of stuff, dealing with women, dealing with a lot of the issues that we face, the desire to hear a sort of a level-handed approach to the differences between men and women. It seems like women get a pass on a lot of stuff, and the common sort of thought is women expect men to be traditional, but they're going to be modern. And so even having a frank conversation about that, or even stuff like modesty, like what does that even mean now? It's I mean, there are a few folks. We've got, folks like Geno Jennings, who is still bringing the fire. He's still stating facts, and assertively so, but it's not necessarily the case. So backing up for me, when I was a kid, I mean, I started when I was really young as a musician. Started when I was 6. Um, my dad is probably my greatest hero. He didn't have the sort of opportunity that I did, growing up. He didn't know his dad, and as we had as frequently he has said, is that when he moved to the projects, he thought the projects were a palace.
Wow.
That's how he came up, how poor he was. But he also had some extended family that owned land out in the country, and so during the summers he was able to go out there and ride horses and do some things. And so immediately then he was like, this is the kind of life that I want my kids to have. And so I grew up with horses, four-wheelers, go-karts. The house that my parents still live in, there's a dirt road, cow pasture, 80 acres behind the house. And so you want to talk about a come up and a leveling up. That my dad certainly did that. If there ever was a story of a man bootstrapping it,
Mm-hmm.
that my dad, that's the story of my father. And so he was a great saxophone player. I heard him playing around the house, and so I started playing saxophone when I was really young. I got 3 or 4 lessons a week and an attentive ear on the practice room. Hey, why are you going on to the next key there? The last one wasn't right. Go back, do that again. Um, so that's kind of the nutshell. I mean, of how I came up. Now, all of us men, and I think what invariably leads guys to the manosphere is in whatever their situation are on their job, in their sort of um, associations with friends, um, as I think men have become more alienated in the sort of topics that are important and critical to us for success, as they become less and less part of the sort of accepted communication, stuff that's outside of the Overton window, as it were. As that happens more and more, guys are going to start looking like where it's like being out in the real world, so to speak, is like a massive gaslighting expedition. It's you deal with issues in relationships. You try to talk to folks about it, and they act like you're the only one that's ever had that experience, and
Yeah.
that stuff gets old. And you kind of know that something's wrong, but you don't really know. You know, I was surprised that there was such a vibrant community online where men could go and actually have frank conversations. Um, so, and that really my sort of introduction to the Black Manosphere. I guess that started about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. I had watched that movie, The Red Pill, Cassie
Yeah.
J, The Red Pill,
Yep. Real good.
and of course that's not what we mean when we say red pill, but it introduced me to this idea that there was such a thing as a men's rights activist. I was totally blown away by that. I was like, really?
Yeah.
And so that kind of and then listen to folks like Jordan Peterson and Paul Elam, Janice Fiamingo. That's sort of some of the sort of white MRAs that I had started checking out, and then that sort of led into more black content creators. And actually, the first one was Solomon Jones. So Solo TV 84.
Shout out to Solo TV 84.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I don't give him I never give him the credit, but I think he may have been the first person in the Manosphere that I ever ran into. It was just like when I wasn't even ready to hear a lot of this stuff, for some reason, Solo's stuff was just popping up here and there. Like for some reason, him and Lucario, for some reason, I would just hear them saying, they would just pop up out of nowhere. This might have been a while ago, early, because they've been doing it for a while, because it's 2021 now. This may have been 2014-ish, somewhere in that range, a while ago. And it would just pop up. I might just look at a little bit of it and then just sort of keep it moving. Wasn't after I lived a little bit longer and I went through a divorce and a number of other things. I was then I circled back into this and then found a few other channels, but I don't even know if I was subscribed to them. I just remember they were just popping up on my feed for some reason. But then some years later, probably around 2017, some 3 maybe 4 years later, I ended up stumbling into Obsidian, and then that sort of got me connected with everybody. No, I was seeing O'Shea pop up too, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, but hold on, real quick. E Capone in the building, always come through, dropping the $5 super chat. Do appreciate that. Yeah, make sure y'all hit the like button. We got 156 people in the building, only 60 on the like. So let's go ahead and get those likes up. Let's get the likes up, good people. Let's get the likes up. We looking bad on the likes. No reason why we shouldn't be at 100 right now. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think I've seen anybody drop Dr. Thunder's link in the chat. So y'all are slipping. Let's go ahead and get that right. And make that happen. Get the link dropped in the chat. Hey, Rod, is that you on my Patreon? Because I shouted you out earlier. Real quick, people. Where is it now? Yeah, right there. I shouted you out earlier because somebody named Rod. I don't want to give out your last name if that's your last name, but I assumed it was you. And so okay, he told me yes. Okay, so good. I got properly acknowledged the right person. I didn't know if that was some other Rod on there, but cool. Glad you joined the Patreon. I will be putting some content up there real soon. But shout out to you and the other brother who came through on the Patreon and whose name I can't pronounce. But if you're in the building, you see your name scrolling across the screen. So definitely shout out to you and everybody coming through. Appreciate all of you. Honey 69 in the building. That's always funny. She probably being one of them women in the church with the tight dress on, trying to steal somebody's husband. Anyway, all right. All right.
Amazing.
Oh, we got that Jesse Lee Peterson. Amazing.
Oh yeah, that's my man.
That's classic. But all right. Getting back into it. I don't know if I cut you off, but you're definitely building towards something. Did you want to put a bow on what you were saying?
Yeah, sure. But I got so Solo TV 84 and Solomon Jones. He's like the spirit of the Black Manosphere. He was right there in the beginning, and his conversation about not dating single mothers, and that was kind of a revolutionary kind of topic. Something that are you allowed to say that? Is it okay to say that? And I remember initially seeing him in the logo, with the air horn and Dom DeMarco and everything. I kept hearing that. I was like, what's going on with this? And he's a pretty diverse kind of content creator, which is really up my alley. And so I spent a lot of time just kind of digging his content. And of course, YouTube started suggesting all kinds of other things to me. Donovan Sharp, who's got the CME coming up here soon. So Donovan Sharp, and he had that, like All-Star, the 6, and then that's actually how I found out about Kevin Samuels. And that was really sort of a revelation to me, because Kevin is one of the few sort of Manosphere content creators that is pro-marriage. So that was kind of an interesting kind of thing. And then of course, he's a Christian, and his experience in the Black church, and then a lot of the statistics that he would cite. And I discovered Dr. T. Hassan Johnson on Kevin's platform. I got connected with Ike Ogiamian through, just by basically emailing him, and then Ike connected me with Solo. That's how I interviewed them on my platform. So anyhow, I mean, I in March of 2020, I decided I wanted to start doing a podcast, and I was, it's something that I wanted to do a long time, but I didn't have time to do it because I'm very busy. Lots of gigs, lots of responsibilities at the school I work at, and then also, being a musician in church.
Just for the record, you teach music for a living, in other words? That's
correct.
Okay. All right. Just because you said, I didn't know that you were an actual teacher working at a school. Is it high school, college, or?
Yeah. It's a major university. It's Big Ten.
Okay. I kind of assumed that, but I didn't want to just throw that on you if that wasn't what's actually going on. So you teach at a major university. Okay, gotcha. All right.
And I'm the director of jazz studies there. So and I'm tenured, and I've been there since 2004. So that's been a big thing. So I'm busy. I'm married. I have a 7-year-old. And so there's just a lot of stuff.
Hold on, I got a good question. Does this Big Ten University, where I assume there's a lot of liberalism, a lot of feminist college students and staff and the whole works, do they stumble into your Dr. Thunder alias online and hear all this misogynistic, chauvinistic hate speech?
Well, actually, it's funny because it's not even a Dr. Thunder. Everybody knows it's Dr. Thunder. The folks that that I work with and everything. Mm-hmm. So it would be pretty easy for folks to find me. And
not worried about that?
Way that I'm not worried about it, because I don't. Because honestly, I'm not saying anything. The stuff I say, I don't really believe is really controversial.
Right.
I think they think it's controversial.
Yeah. Well, what will end up happening? Well, one possible concern is that they may connect you to somebody. Like, for example, you're on Ramil. I'm sure you didn't say anything on Ramil that you wouldn't say on your channel. Right. But however, if they go through Ramil's catalog, then they try to pin what the stuff that Ramil may have said a month ago, a week ago, and all of that. They may pin that on you. That may be something to potentially be concerned about. But either way it goes, I do like brothers who do have professional jobs, who are connected to this space, who don't hide their face and go ahead and put it out there, put it on the wood. I do like that. More men need to do it, even though I understand those that don't and their reasons why. But I do like that and respect that. Snuggles in the building with the super chat. Well, okay, gotta play the little snuggly bear for Snuggles.
Hi, I'm Snuggle. Snuggly softness. That's really less expensive.
Snuggles in the building with the super chat. She says, I know you're going to take out a bunch of collection during the sermon. So this is for the first collection. Now everybody else give it up. No, you were not the first collection. The first E. Capone dropped 5 on it. And shout out to Red Sings the Blues, who I'm very glad he sent this super chat. I'm very glad he sent this super chat because I thought I was supposed to be coming on his show tomorrow, but I'm being told that it's Saturday. So I'm glad. Good to know that. Good to know that. Email me again. You got to keep reminding me stuff. But yeah, hit me up. Make sure I know the time too. Make sure I know the time. Yeah, Rod. You're right. I know, Rod. That bear is a little creepy. That bear is getting creepier and creepier. Feel like it's doing something different every time. It's crawling more over the sign every time. It's getting closer.
It's crawling through the screen.
Yeah, it's gonna do like the Ring. That's what I've been saying. It's getting closer and closer every time. But Red Sings Blues in the building says donation to Doc and Bernard. Can't wait to have you both on my panel Saturday. Appreciate you. And y'all see as my man Leo Anthony is posting right there. Subscribe to Dr. Thunder, Rod of God podcast, posting it right there. Make sure y'all subscribe to the guy. Silent Lamont didn't post a link, but he told you to go do it. He said subscribe to Dr. Thunder and Rod of God. Oh, only Silent, one of these days I'm gonna sit you down. Listen, Silent, one of these days I'm gonna sit you down and I'm gonna do a full PowerPoint presentation explaining to you why you ain't shit. Okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do a full PowerPoint presentation to explain that to you. You need to know this. You need to know why. All right. I thought about getting that sound effect in there too. I like that one.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Where were we? Well, let's get into the church. Let's get into the church. We're 30 minutes in, so let's go ahead and get into the church. There's a number of things on the table. The first thing you put on the list is one that was a little controversial to me because one of the remaining remnants of my very liberal days is I was very pro-choice, and I'm singing a different tune on that now. I mean, I'm kind of being converted over, but I was very, very pro-choice, partially for good reasons. I hate to jokingly put it, but I mean when you got women, not all, but if you got women making twerk videos saying that they want a Henny and a Plan B, I'm like, well, somebody, please, somebody give her a life supply of Plan Bs. So she don't let this woman reproduce ever. So that was in a joking way. That was my logic. Like everybody don't need to reproduce. It's a hopeless attempt to try to get people to stop having sex. That ain't gonna happen. So, and maybe I'm just waiting on the medical science and technology to just catch up to the point where making or either, I mean, birth control and condoms are pretty much there, but I clearly the human animal needs something more effective. You could take you pop it one time and then you're good until you're good for a year. So you don't, with no side effects. Maybe that's what's needed, because when we look at outcomes of Black people born into a nuclear family, 2-parent household, we can see the outcomes. We can clearly see the outcomes. So when I look at all the baby mamaism, baby daddyism, I said, in a quality over quantity standpoint, I didn't see abortion as a bad thing. But then there's the question, okay, well, where do you start? Where do you put where does human life begin? Well, I never thought it began at conception, but where? And I don't have a good answer. And my lack of having a good answer, I used to say, as long as it's if it's viable, meaning if she went into labor, she could actually give a live birth, then right there it would be murder to abort it. But that line is moving further and further back with medical science and technology. So is medical science and technology determining when human life begins and when it doesn't? And if so, then it's like, what are we doing? So I just ended up in a whirlwind of thoughts and not knowing where to go on it. And so I'm leaning more towards life begins at conception. And if so, I can't be pro-choice then. So that's
Right.
what I'm internally struggling with right now. But now, as far as I just wanted to throw my cards on the table before we get into this discussion about abortion, because I'm sure you have some commentary on it as it relates to the Black church. But I did want to just throw all my cards on the table and of where I'm at with it. But before we get your official thoughts, take, and perspective on the Black church and it not talking about abortion, I do want to get to these super chats. Shout out to Red Sings the Blues. He says, just send a reminder email Bernard and Doc. I'll send the StreamYard link soon today. Not at my desktop at the moment, running errands. Shout out to Red Sings the Blues. Thank you very much. And Snuggles in the building. He says, what's wrong with being pro-choice? I see no problem with it. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. I don't get the issue. We're going to get into that, Snuggles.
Hi, I'm Snuggles.
Nope, I didn't want to see it climb over. I cut it short. I didn't want to see it climb. I don't want to see it start coming for me. Rod of God podcast. Snuggles, the baby doesn't have a choice. That's the issue. Shout out to the Rod of God podcast. All right, now let's go. I'm handing it over to you. It's all on you right now. Make it make sense. Go ahead.
All right, so I'll present a couple of thoughts on the abortion issue, but my primary point here and contention is that the traditional Christian view on abortion is that abortion is murder. That is the traditional Christian view, because the traditional Christian view believes that life begins at the moment of conception. Now, science has come along and has confirmed many of the things that religious folks, the church, and all of the Abrahamic religions have been saying all along. And that is, at the moment of conception, new DNA is created. So unique DNA. As soon as that egg fertilizes, the sperm fertilizes the egg, new genetic material, new DNA is produced. One of the frequent issues that is raised is this whole my body, my choice. Okay, now a couple things with that. One of the things is that I don't have any issue with your body. I'm not talking about your appendix. I'm not talking about your lungs, your liver.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about your skeletal system. I'm not talking about any of that.
Real quick, even when I was liberal and was very pro-choice, I did find that to be a disingenuous argument, because it's not about the woman's body. I mean, yes, her body is affected. Yes, that's part of the nature of being a woman and giving birth. We understand that, but it's not. So I found it to be very disingenuous, just for the simple fact that we know in the outset we're not talking about the woman's body. We're talking about the life of the human being that's inside of her. Now, yes, it's attached to her uterus or feeding. We get it. But I was pro-choice, but I didn't find the argument, hey, a woman has a right to do whatever she wants to do with her body. I'm like, that's a spin move. That's a sidestep or deflection out of this world. I didn't find that compelling at all. So I did struggle with that. That was a spin move. Definitely a spin move.
But rights are not conferred based on proximity or based on location. Okay. So for instance, if I was on an airplane and the pilot was like, you know what, this is my airplane. I can do what I want to do with this airplane. I'm wrecking this airplane into side of that mountain. Okay. Now, obviously, he doesn't have autonomy to be able to do that because there are other people that also have rights that are inside the plane. So you don't get to just wreck the plane because you want to. So the folks inside also have rights.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're talking about here is a basic human rights issue. Okay. Now, we should be all about protecting the least among us. Right. And so really, this shouldn't even be a conversation. One of the questions I think you can ask someone that uses the my body, my choice sort of argument is you say, okay, how many fingers do you have? Unless they say 20 fingers, how many toes do you have? Unless they say 20 toes. Okay. So then we're obviously not talking about your 10 fingers and 10 toes. We're talking about this other 10 fingers and 10 toes that are not you. Okay. So that's that's sort of my perspective on this. I've been pro-life my whole life, even when I was much more liberal leaning because of my sort of religious upbringing. Of the churches that I have been a part of, that I have, let's talk about the ones that I have worked at in particular. Really only one maybe or two were actually willing to discuss abortion, and that abortion is wrong, abortion is a sin, abortion is ending the life of someone that does not have a choice, cannot defend themselves, but what's happened is in the Black church in particular, it's hard to find these churches because of this sort of unholy alliance that the Black church has formed with the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And as I think feminism has sort of become more asserted and more plainly expressed in the Black church, many of those sort of progressive sort of values have also sort of infiltrated the church. And that's one of them. And so rather than out and out saying, hey, we're pro-choice, you probably have a hard time finding a Black church that's going to do that. There are a few that will say that they believe that pro-choice is the right position. There are a few, but it's such a minority. Usually what they will say, they just will refuse to talk about the topic. So then that way you can sort of stay safe. And when I think about how disproportionately the abortion issue affects the Black community, that's when it grieves it grieves me to consider that the institution that is in place to provide some kind of context in not just allow the government to do anything, and that is the Black church, has been largely derelict in consider the way that the Black church was assertive in talking from the pulpit during the civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
You had a lot of preachers that were really aggressive and assertive, talking about stuff that was going on that was not right. Okay, what they considered to be human rights issues, right? But now you don't see that. You don't see that kind of in. For my money, the abortion issue is the most important issue. 52% of Black pregnancies in abortion. 52%. That's half of us before we even got going. Back during civil rights times, during the civil rights struggle, virtually all of the civil rights leaders were pro-life. But not only that, they actually, most of them or many of them actually preached against birth control, because their belief was that the way that we can increase our power politically is by having more of us. And as you have more of us can vote.
Now that's a bridge too far with being against birth control. That's getting in Catholic Church territory.
Look, I'm not against birth control. Let me be clear about that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not against birth control, but understand the extent to which civil rights leaders in that period, they weren't just against abortion. They were also against anything that was going to reduce our numbers in mass. And now we see that 50% of us are being cut off even before we get started.
Well, you got to think. Hold on, but you got to think though. If the marital rate was high to the point, I think it was assumed that most black babies are going to be born into a family, and even if it was born and the man and the woman weren't married, it was enough family units to where that child will be okay and taken care of, and bare minimum just be raised with some type of principles. I don't know, but so I do think it's a different thing if they're talking about it's all about the numbers. There are people still to this day who talk like that. A brother who I never did a one-on-one with him, but he's hopped on the panel a few times. I hope I don't botch his position, but I think psychopathy is one of those who says we need all, we love them. The numbers, the numbers are the most important. The circumstances of the birth is secondary to just the birth has to happen. We need the numbers. We need all these babies to grow up and be, part of the army, so to speak. There's a lot of people who still have that view of it. I still have we got to figure out how to get more quality than quantity, because that's still sort of my view on it. But we're gonna circle back to a few things. Fatal Dose of Sage in the building. He says science tells us that a single cell organism was the beginning of life, but the two complex sperm and egg together, is it life? Is not life? Or I think he's trying to say something with a question mark. You're telling me that that's not life. How does it make sense? That's true. It is. It's definitely life. I think to make the argument more precise, does human life begin at conception? And I think we all can agree that what's growing, even if we look at just the sperm and the egg connected, and something is in there growing now, even if we say, okay, but that's not a human yet. I mean, but it's still if we ask the question, okay, but what is growing inside of this this human? Another human.
Well, is it a canine? Let me ask you
exactly
about what's growing. Is it a canine?
No. So
is it an ant? Is it a is it a cat that's growing? What is it that's growing? It's human.
That's why a human being. That's why I've been sort of argued out of my position on that one. And like I said, it's some remnants of my previous liberalism. I was very pro-choice, but yeah, I've been argued out of my position on that one. Nobody directly, just a series of people talking, a little bit of reading, watching this video, that video, and it's hard to hang on to that position, but yeah.
I think what's going to happen in the future is, as science continues to develop and we get more confirmation of something that was already known, that has been known for a long time, as we get more confirmation of that, I think that we're going to look at this time period with horror. People are going to be like, dude, look at the number of people that were snuffed out. Look at the number of black people that were snuffed out.
Yeah, just like how, generations today, we look in horror of things previous generations did back.
Yeah, like slavery.
Yeah. So when we, hundreds of years from now, when the science and technology and everything start approaching more Star Trek technology, we're going to look back at these barbarians of today
Exactly.
who are just, and not just the savages, but no, some of the smartest, highest IQ medical doctors performing these operations on people to extract a human life from the body of another human. Oh man, it's going to be bad. Like people, the pro-choice people will end up being on the wrong side of history. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that, because eventually the science and the technology is just going to get to the point to where it's going to be unfathomable to think that you're going to deliberately terminate a pregnancy. Is going to get to that point eventually. But
yeah, I mean, and the thing is I think pro-life people are very much reasonable with this whole conversation, in that, though I personally believe as soon as the life begins, then we need to protect it. So in the case of, for instance, rape and incest, it's still a life. This life still doesn't get to choose. The circumstances that the life began were obviously tumultuous and not what you want, but the life still exists. But a lot of pro-life folks will say, you know what? If your primary issue is in the case of rape and incest, we got to keep this thing legal. Say, okay, I'm good with that. All right, so then that needs to be the only reasons that you can do that. If that is what you're saying, but
yeah,
they won't ever contend that, because those issues aren't really issues for them. Really, what they want is they want convenience. They want the ability to decide at any point in time, all the way up until birth, with a lot of the way that the law is framed now. They want to be able to just, hey, this is a choice I get to make. And I mean, look, most of abortions are basically, I'm sorry to say this, but I mean, based on the statistics, most of them are basically birth control.
whew. Yeah, it's really effective.
Most of them are birth control.
Yeah.
So my thing is, let's reduce the number of these abortions that are birth control. How can we do that? Let's have a conversation about how we can do that, because this is killing. I mean, literally killing the Black community. It's literally killing the Black community. 52%. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. In your experience, because I'm trying to think back when I was going to church, did they really? I don't remember them really talking about it. I'm really trying to think back.
It's been a long time since there was assertive, regular communication about abortion. I mean, if you consider abortion, okay, so say for instance, because one thing that people say frequently is, hey, you're just a one issue voter. So like, if abortion is really important to you, and so then that ends up being like the primary reason why you feel like you can't vote for Democrats, it's like, oh, that's a one issue voter. Well, let me ask you this. If slavery and racism, or slavery/racism, was on the ballot, would you still be able to look beyond those things to still vote for a party that was supporting slavery and racism outright? No,
Right.
of course not. And that would be a one issue voter.
Yeah, it's okay
Now,
to be a one issue voter. Yeah, depending on
Yeah,
what
right.
the issue is.
That's right. Exactly. So my point is here is, since we know that abortions are disproportionately targeting Black babies, disproportionately targeting
Hold
Black
on.
babies.
You made it seem like abortion is just some disembodied thing that's happening. No.
Oh, no.
Black
It's
women
not
are
disembodied.
disproportionately aborting babies. Let's make it.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
Let's word it
Yeah,
correctly.
No, but look at how the things are structured. I mean, Planned Parenthood, who's the primary, they're receiving the most money for it. Let's put it that way. They're the primary ones doing these abortions. They're almost always in the Black neighborhood, close by where they think that they're going to be able to get more folks to make that decision. Also, Margaret Sanger, we know that she was a devout racist. The whole eugenics thing, the whole idea that she believed that black babies should not be born. I mean that's like her words. That's what she thought. So why are we still celebrating Margaret Sanger? Why are people still getting awards, the Margaret Sanger Award? Democrats, and they're supposedly supposed to be the party for the black people. You know, they're the ones that really got our back, right? Yeah. But they're also the ones that are handing out these, you know, basically eugenics racism awards to so and, yeah.
Well, shout out to Rod of God podcast. He says, I have literally never heard a pastor mention mention abortion in sermon. And the Hood Conservative says Planned Parenthood is in the ghetto because the blue district gives them more money. Shout out to you. All right. Go ahead. You were saying something. I cut you off.
And the thing is we can disagree. You know, we don't have to agree. Some, you know, folks would be like, hey, you know, I'm still going to deal with my pro-choice thing, and I still think that women have to be the ones, you know, deciding that and all of that. You can decide that. I'm pro-life. You know, I believe that also that a man should actually have rights associated with his genetic material. But hey, that's fine. But what we must do is we must find a way to reduce these numbers because of the disproportionate number of them that are black babies. You know, so you know, if that is the issue on the ballot, I see that issue as not only a racism issue, you know, but I also see it as a human rights issue. You know, as far as can you exist at all? Wow. Because of how it disproportionately is impacting us. So
with you. Shout out to everybody who has come through on the Cash App end. I got who we got in here. Roastmaster 1. That was right at the buzzer. I was checking it, and right when I did that, it popped up. Shout out to Roastmaster, dropped a $20 Cash App on me. You dropped a funny comment in somebody's comment section that I'm not even going to repeat, but it was funny. D-Rock Den in the building dropped a $5. Perry in the building dropped $10, and thank you for that $20. Roastmaster 1 always coming through on the Cash App, and appreciate you. So all right, let's
I think we can move on. I mean,
I was definitely we got a number of things in here, so we ain't gonna get to nothing. We might not get to half of this. There's a number of topics that the church don't talk about, but I never really had a long-winded abortion discussion. So I was I never had a long-winded abortion discussion on this show. I've talked about it, but I've never done it on this show. But normally we just talk about it in passing. But so that I was kind of glad that it sort of became the topic for like a extended period of time. So yeah, I did want to pick your brain on that one. But the topics that they don't discuss in the church. Now, this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Because they don't talk about submission in the church, and some people roll their eyes or fake pretend like they don't like the discussions, and some people legitimately don't like when the Manosphere talk about submission all the time. I think it's a good topic. I think it's a good discussion. It's a weird type of thing. Even if we taking the church out of the equation, women only want to be with a man, and they only really like a man and want to stay with that man if they believe, well, they only want to stay with the man in a productive, happy, healthy relationship if he's running the show. You know, they don't, if the woman could run the show or lead or get or have the one up or the leverage in any way, shape, or form, she instantly, more times than not, instantly is not going to respect the man. So even if you take church out the equation in general, when it comes to a woman submitting to the man making the final decision and all of that, relationships tend to work better. You want the man to lead anyway, don't you? So it's like it just makes sense that the relationship just works better, a happy, healthier, more functioning relationship if the man is more or less, or well, absolutely in charge. You know, give or take. I mean, if she's smart, you can listen to her opinion and you can hear out what she got to say, but you got to make the final call. That's the only way she's gonna respect it and respect you anyway. So that's my position on submission. And a lot of relationships go wrong when there's a power struggle. That's mostly what it is. Just two people fighting over the remote, metaphorically. They're really fighting over every damn thing. But so it makes sense to just get a man a damn remote and lay on his shoulder and watch what the hell he want to watch. All right. But anyway, let's talk about the church, because the Bible
Sure.
gets a little deeper deeper than fights over the remote. Even though I'm joking, don't nobody clip that and make it seem like the whole submission discussion is just a fight over the remote. It's bigger than that. I was joking. But let's dig deeper into it. How the Bible talks a lot about submission, and we have a church now that's, I believe, 80% women, who, even I talked about this on a previous show, even on weddings, even during weddings, when the pastor mentions submission or obedience or things like that, it's normally an uproar. I've literally heard like he had to stop, he had to get order in the court because everybody went crazy when he started mentioning it at a wedding. At a wedding, he's telling that woman is about to marry this man that she got to be with for the rest of her life, and they at church telling her, no, you ain't got to be obedient. They, it's in the Bible. But clearly the church ain't. We gonna omit those details. So I'll pass to you after I acknowledge Snuggles. I do like to just give my little pre-ramble on the subject before I pass it to you.
Sure.
Snuggles 668. If the children were never aborted in the low-income community, who would be taking care of them? Can anyone answer that? Oh, Snuggles, we got to move on. If you can answer Snuggles' question in 30 seconds and then move on to the topic that we're moving on to.
Yeah. So, that's a separate issue. And I am a whole life, a person. So I'm not one of these folks that says, hey, we just need to get these babies born, but then now I disappear once they're born. That's, that's not my position. One of the things I think in the Black community that could, and I think should happen with a much more frequency, is the willingness to give up the kids for adoption. There are a lot of people that want to adopt. They just can't have kids for a number of reasons. And they're in a much better situation. The kid is going to have a far superior life, way better. And I believe it to be one of the heights of selfishness to know that you're about to bring a baby into the world, and in a impoverished, kind of situation, and or maybe you're struggling with some kind of addiction or something, and it's going to be a crapshoot if you're going to even be able to keep yourself straight to take care of the kid. 80% of the kids are being born out of wedlock, and I personally believe, and it used to be, and this is one of the things the church used to preach aggressively, assertively. If you were having a kid and you were not married, the minister would come to you, or his wife or something, or some of the leaders in the church, and would say, hey, do you want to consider adoption? There's some members in the church that are willing to do so, and so you had that happening at a much higher rate. But now it's like that's considered like a taboo kind of thing. Like, oh, how dare you, she it's her kid. She should be able to raise her kid. I can't imagine my life without my kid. And it's all about me, and it's all about, how I feel. And like this, it's not about you. That's the whole point. It's not about you. It's about the kid. It's about their rights, their, first of all, their right to live. And then secondly, it's about their quality of life. So I think there are a lot of things that we don't consider with the same regularity, and that are not sort of addressed and supported and promoted, by the Black church. And that's one of them. So silent on abortion, but then if they're going to have the kid, silent on adoption, as a regular option. So anyhow,
Right on. In Enigma Inc. Enigma Inc. I'm gonna say it, nigga. Enigma Inc. says the church doesn't speak about how a woman is supposed to conduct herself before enduring the marriage. Any book of faith describes that in detail. All right, let's get into it.
yeah, it does.
The church.
It most certainly does.
Wait, hold on.
The
Let me
Bible.
He said
Yeah,
the
this
church
Bible-
doesn't speak about how a woman is supposed to conduct herself. He didn't say the Bible doesn't. He said
Oh,
any book
right.
of faith
Okay.
describes
You're,
this in detail.
okay. I got you.
Yeah.
You're
No,
right.
you did what I did. I normally read people's super chats incorrectly, and then we'll do a 10-minute speech responding to it. And then I look down at the chat, and everybody is like, "No, you read it wrong, but not." And I'm like, "Oh, my bad."
Yeah.
But anyway.
So any book of faith, right? And that would include the Bible. So yes, I take that. I take that point, Enigma.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Shout out to Ike in the building. Anyway,
my man.
Shout out to Ike. Shout out to Ike.
That's right, my brother in the
Go ahead. Let's go ahead and get it. AMC still climbing. I'm up even more money than what I announced at the beginning of the show, but let's keep it rolling.
So yeah, the submission thing is it's not really a tricky thing. I could say this is tricky because you have to like nuance X, Y, and Z. It's a very clear, it's presented in the Bible very clearly. Women are supposed to submit to their husbands, and men are supposed to be willing to sacrifice themselves for the wives. I mean, it's very clear. Okay. Now, what we have today is women still expect the man to sacrifice himself, but they are unwilling to submit. En masse are unwilling to submit. And again, this is one of these topics where, with regularity from the pulpit, the church was leading the charge in, and that's why a lot of the more healthy marriages were sort of Christian, spiritual sort of marriages, spiritually based marriages. But now, if you actually look at the numbers, you'll see that the divorce rate is at least the same as everyone else's abortion. I'm sorry, the divorce rate. But actually, that number is the same. That's why I made that misstatement. It's about 50%.
Yeah.
But if you go into the marriage and the woman is like, I'm not willing to say obey, or I'm not submitting, or any of this kind of thing, these sort of like gut reactions to certain terms that are throughout the Bible. I mean, you can't really expect that it's going to work out very well. Now, there are a few things I think that have contributed to this. Now, obviously, the whole sort of full embrace of feminism, I think, has been part of it. But part of it, I think, comes honestly, and that is that if the men are not present in representative numbers, right? If they're not present, then what that does, if the church has to still exist and continue to do business as usual, then you're going to have more women in leadership positions. That's just what's going to happen. I mean, somebody has to do the work. Somebody has to do it. And so that is no one's fault per se. But I think as you see more of that, and then also this sort of full embrace of aspects of feminism that are not conducive and not, they don't fit with Christianity. They don't fit with, traditional Christianity. I think what you end up with is a sort of unwitting sort of promotion of stuff like you know, being unwilling to submit, a lot of the sort of masculine sort of behaviors that, I think often is the case, that Black women feel that it's a down to them if they say that they're going to submit, like they're admitting that they're lesser than, and all that stuff is just not true. None of that stuff is true. And the fact is that if you want a marriage to last, if you want a relationship to last, and if you want to have promote healthy relationships, men and women are different, and men are designed to take on more of this sort of labor and stress. Kevin Samuels frequently says, stress is for shoulders and not hips. Right? And women are going to be more nurturers. And that's it. Now, of course, you can find some exception to this. There are exceptions, but understand that the exception only proves the rule. It proves the rule in the fact that it is an exception. So making rules based on exceptions it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Osama Abdul in the building says, to be real, the supply for white kids up for adoption versus the demand is insanely low. For Black kids, it's polar opposite. Very few takers for the demand. Yeah, I know nothing about that. I don't know. Appreciate you coming through the $5. Do you know anything about that?
I do. I do know something about that. And so part of the issue with adoption is the adoption system. It's the way it's designed. It is I'm sorry to say this, but it's a for-profit industry. So you're basically selling humans for money, right? And so like you have these adoption agencies, they'll swoop in and they'll buy up all of the infants. And then in order to place them with families, they can charge anywhere from $5,000 to $30,000 and more, just for that family to have the agency advocate for them. So that's not necessarily a guarantee of a placement, right? So you have all of those kinds of circumstances. Now, it is true that once a kid gets beyond a certain age, that fewer families are going to want to take them in. But as far as what's going on with infants, this policy needs to change. The way that the laws are, they need to change. If you're in Europe, for instance, the European laws, they see profiting from the sale of kids, children. They see it as it's illegal. As a matter of fact, if you tried to do adoption in Europe, most of the European countries, the way that we do it here, a lot of folks would be serving time in jail because it is illegal. So anyhow.
Yeah. Rod of God podcast in the building said, but man left the church because of hypocrisy and greed. Appreciate the $5. And one moment. Ike said, any demand for albino babies I'm selling. Ike, actually, I just looked it up. Albino babies are like half off right now, so it's not it's not really a buyer's buyer's
they're
market.
giving those away. Yeah, they're giving those away. That's what
not a buyer's market on that, or not a seller's market, I should say. Yeah. Anyway, Snuggles in the building with the super chat. Shout out to Snuggles.
Hi, I'm Snuggle. Snuggly softness. That's really less expensive.
It got closer.
it did get closer.
Dr. Thunder said, making rules based on exceptions. He is breaking the code. How people argue against a point. I wonder who does that. No punctuation. I don't know what you're talking about right there. I don't know. Do you get what she's talking about?
Maybe she misunderstood my point.
Maybe the bear
By
needs to
virtue
climb.
of the fact,
Go ahead.
yeah. Yeah,
It
that
needs to
time
climb
it made
through
it
the
all the way
spring,
to my
sit on your
lap.
desk, and explain it to you. But anyway,
Yeah. Well, by virtue that something is the exception, that it is a minority and a small minority at that, all that does is point out the fact that it is the minority and that the dominant position far outweighs that position. So that's why making a rule out of the exception is never a good choice.
a sower of seed says, for yesterday's stream, since I do have some experience with coding, yesterday's stream was fire. I definitely recommend people go back and watch that. And for today's stream, since this is about the church, not church. I don't even know what that means. About the church, not church. I think I don't know if that means
Church,
like,
it's a different thing. Church is like,
yeah, I see
Catholic
now. I see.
church.
That there goes my
Church.
selective reading. I didn't realize that he changed the spelling. I called it church because I call it that anyway, but I didn't even realize he spelled it that way. So yeah, I sometimes just scan and not actually read it, and then I end up not making sense. But I get church, yeah, church, not church, church. Get it. Shout out to Sower of Seed. Appreciate you coming through with the $10 super. But all right. We can cycle through that one fast. I've talked about submission quite a bit on my channel, and one little quick thing I'll respond to, because whenever we talk about submission and everything, there's always a stereotype. Oh, they talk about abuse of women. Really what we're talking about is healthy relationships. I'm in a relationship. My woman, she's just naturally a submissive woman. She damn near can't help it. I take it. And you are married, correct?
That's right.
All right. And I'd assume your wife is a submissive woman for the most part.
Yes, she is.
On a good day. But okay. But either way, I like to do that just to make it seem, because they like to make us like these are just a bunch of losers just pleading, please, I just need a woman to submit to me, please. Like, no, most of the guys who are having these conversations are guys who are either in relationships, some of them married, some of them, we understand how it works. And
now I'm gonna say something, and I've been critical. Obviously this stream is about being critical about certain things that aren't as present as we would like to see them in the Black church. But I met my wife in church.
Mm-hmm.
I met her at church, and my wife is modest. And I'm just gonna go all the way there. She's got no tattoos.
My woman don't got none either.
She's feminine. She's submissive. And she's super creative and talented and all of that. And she's a great mother. And I have a 7-year-old. She is a terrific mom. And so it is possible to meet women that are modest and submissive and have those good family values and all that kind of stuff. That is still a possible thing these days, although percentage-wise, it seems that it's significantly less likely.
Yeah, it's going down. It's the stock on that is going down, but it's some people still might. Some people like to buy low. Put it like that. Sometimes you got to buy low.
Oh, that's right.
The stock is going down. Shout out to King Dadango in the building with the $50 super chat.
$50 So that makes you rich?
It's a start.
Damn.
Shout out to Big Mag the Fisher. He says we adopted a safe haven. We adopted a safe haven baby 5 years ago. Oh, gotcha.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yep.
We hired lawyers. He had a lawyer, and the state had representation over $20K when said and done. But if you're broke, they will give you money to foster with. Good stuff. And just for the sake of this conversation, out of curiosity, because we can't tell your race by looking at the Mr. Potato Head's great granddaddy in that picture, but what's your race and what's the race of the baby you adopted? Just out of curiosity, out of pure curiosity. But thank you for your contribution to the show, and thank you for that information that you put out there. And and kudos to you you and your I assume you and your wife who adopted a baby. You know, that's good
Yeah,
stuff.
there is are some really good foster to adopt policies. Oh, I'm sorry, not policies, programs. Where you go through the program, you become eligible to foster because there's a shortage of foster parents. And then the process would work like basically you would foster and then you would foster to adopt, and there is sort of a risk with that. And the risk is that if you're fostering at any point in time, the child could be given back to their parents. So you could be developing this sort of close relationship with the kid, and you're thinking, okay, I'm trying to adopt. We're going that direction, and then the kid ends up going back to their parents. So, yeah. So anyhow, that is something that frequently happens, but it still is a really good option and can keep the money down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can essentially do it. You could essentially do it without paying anything, because a lot of these programs will pay for your home study.
Right on. Good stuff. I was waiting for a reply, but Tavares Whiteley in the building with a $20 super chat. Appreciate the $20.
I want 150,000. So we can set out of court right now for $20.
Man, get your
Appreciate it. Tavares Whiteley in the building. Currently, the Black Church
Those are
is
great,
sitting.
man. I love those.
Currently, the Black Church is sitting
That
at
was a
80%.
great idea to do that. To get all of those together, man.
Yeah, I'm going to be making some more. But currently, the Black Church is sitting at 80% women on average. What 3 key things could the Black Church leadership? What key 3 things could the Black Church leadership, who is still predominantly male, do to attract Black men? That is a good question. That is a good question that I'm going to throw to you. Hold on, wait. Just hold your thought on that one. Let me cycle through the rest of them. Silent Mind in the building. He says, if all that comes in a fat package, I'm good. God damn.
These last $2, I'm not gonna lose.
God damn, Silent.
Really,
I told
nigga?
you. Hit that again. I was talking through it.
Really, nigga?
And by the way, that sound sample that's become that one has become. Oh yeah. That one has been ubiquitous, especially the last few months. And that's a guy that I went to school with.
Oh, really?
Paige Kennedy. Paige is a successful actor. And I interviewed him on my Conversations with Dr. Thunder series. So it's kind of an interesting twist there.
Interesting. Well, shout out to Silent. God damn. Okay. Hello, Bernard. This is Surik Limbrick. Says, hello, Bernard and Dr. Thunder. Are your wives ADOS women? I'm not married, but my woman is a dark-skinned ADOS Black woman with an afro and Michael Jackson's original nose on her face. She black as she could possibly. She couldn't get blacker if she tried. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
You can
mine
answer
is
that question.
mine is also ADOS, and she's also dark skinned. And so much for
And
the
but she,
what is it,
I
the
know, but she gotta either have a big chop or an afro, and she gotta have Michael Jackson's original nose on her face. She got all that going. Other than that,
she's
her black.
definitely all original parts. She's definitely all original parts.
I know, but if she got rocking natural hair and dark skin, but she got a pointy nose, then don't count. Don't count. She gotta have
And my
big
wife is in
nostrils.
shape, by the way. My wife is in shape, by the way. Just to dispel that, I know that 80% of our women are overweight, and 60% of the total number are obese. But that is not the case with my wife, and I try to frequently mention that and thank her for that.
Right on. Good stuff, good stuff. But all right, we got to get back into it. Sometimes, see, I love the personal touch that my show has. That the super chats will throw off the conversation sometimes because hey, somebody super chat something, it will just take the conversation in a different way. That way, the audience is a part of the show. I do love that. That's why I try to incorporate and include you guys as much as possible. Because yeah, the audience matters. I love my audience. Shout out to Jonathan Barronville. I saw that you sent me a message or some text. I was getting ready for the show. I haven't even read what you sent me, but I will be checking that out. JB, I will be checking that out.
$50. So that makes you rich?
It's a start. Damn.
Appreciate your support. Let's move along, get to the topic. But yeah, we'll be seeing what you sent me. I think you sent me some text messages. Yeah, you sent me some text messages. I didn't get a chance to read them, but I will check them out. Buck Dodger in the building. He says, my lady is all OEM. What is that? Oh, original equipment manufacturer, except no substitutions. Right on. Shout out to you. Appreciate the super chat. Yeah, definitely. Ike says, if you can afford it, pay for a personal trainer. I don't know how much personal trainers cost. Gym memberships are like $10 nowadays. I mean, there's no excuse to just hop in the damn gym. But I'm talking
that's taking a page out of Donovan Sharp's book, because he pays for a personal trainer for his girl.
I need to pay for one because it would be beneficial for me. I'm talking about for me. It would be beneficial for me to just have somebody who call me and say, come your black ass on, let's go. Because right now I'm just like, I do it when I feel like it. And doing it when I feel like it don't work now that I'm closing in on 40. Doing it when I feel like it don't work. I used to could do it when I feel like it and stay in shape. Now I need somebody to I gotta pay somebody to make me do it. I think that's the direction I have to go now. He said Donovan. All right. Let's get back into it. Thank y'all for all the super chat and all the support. Appreciate everybody who contributes to the show in any way, shape, or form. Now, another thing that we talk about that the church, the black church, don't talk about is divorce rates initiated by women, which is a weird thing because one aspect of it, I know a woman, an old lady in the church. She's stuck it out, on some I'm gonna stick beside him type stuff. She just stuck with him, and for a long time and ain't leave him. She was like 70 when she finally left some guy who, per the story, was abusive to her. So she just got abused for 50 years before she finally left. There's those stories right there, but so there's a stereotype of that church woman that just deal with the guy no matter what because she don't believe in divorce. Then the other aspect of it is we know the data, women are filing 80% of the divorces. The church is lacking men. The pastor, the preacher is not speaking against divorcing that husband. You very rarely hear sermons about it. You don't hear that much talk about it. So just what's your overall take on that? You got it. Fire away. Well, Big Mag, the Fisher in the building, he says, we are black. Our son is too. Our son made this filter and I want to keep it. I will not joke about the fact that your filter, your picture looks like Mr. Potato Head's great granddaddy. I will not make another joke about that because your son made it and it's awesome. Awesome that he has you looking like Mr. Potato Head's great granddaddy. But all right, I won't make another joke about it. All right, go ahead, Dr. Thunder.
All right. Now that that's over.
All right, go ahead. You got it.
So, yeah, we should just do a show.
Oh,
where we
wait. We didn't answer Tavares Wiley's question. I'm sorry. I apologize. He asked that real good question. What can
that's right.
remaining black male leadership in the church do to attract more men? That is a good question that we need to get into.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll, let's talk about that. So, all right. So so one of the issues is that men are sort of not. That's messed up,
man. Y'all ain't
messed up.
Oh my God! Oh no!
Yeah. Anyhow, but yeah, that question about black men, how we get more black men in church. It's interesting. My first job out of college was at a church. It was a full-time band director and pastor's assistant at a pretty big church, about 2,000 to 2,500 member black church, led by a pastor named Joel Brooks Jr. And Joel and I are still good friends. I interviewed him on my Conversations with Dr. Thunder series, and he was one of the panelists on it was a stream we did on O'Shea's channel a couple months ago that addressed, why black men are leaving the church and never coming back. And that was a really heavy stream. I mean, it was like 700 or 800 live viewers pretty much the whole time. And we went for 2.5 hours. We could have kept going. A really active chat. It's obviously a topic that a lot of folks in the Black Manosphere are interested in. It's an important topic. But in that stream, Joel Brooks, he talked about when he inherited the church that he now pastors. Church was called Christian Life Center. It's in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Now the church is called Stone Church. So shout out to him. It's my man. So anyhow, he inherited a church that had this sort of typical demographic where he had 75 or 80% women. And he talked to them. He said, look, this is what we're going to do. He talked to the congregation and he talked to the board and everything. He was like, look, this is what we need to do. We need to focus on men. And I know that it's going to be a change and it's going to be different. But if we don't do this, the church is going to die out. And so he started focusing on men, addressing issues that men deal with. And he's more of a conservative guy. So he's talking about pro-life stuff. He's talking about all of the stuff, a lot of the issues that black men tend to have with the black church. He's talking about that stuff. And so then therefore what happened was the demographic shift was massive. All these men started coming. And so it ended up being a 50-50 population. And of course, now what happened as soon as women found out that men were there, then a bunch more women showed up. So that sort of started to change the demographic. But he took a church that he inherited that was 80% women, and he was able to change it to a 50-50 kind of thing. So what it takes is strong leadership from the top. You need a masculine man that is talking about men's issues and prioritizing those issues. When that happens, the men will show up. You're never going to lose the women. because the women are always going to come if they know that the men are there.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen overnight though. And you have to be willing to take the risk. So it's not like a lot of the ways that these churches are designed is if the pastor comes in and he is doing a bunch of stuff that, they feel like, oh, we're losing members and such has been a member for so long. And, now we're going to lose their financial support. And, there's all this kind of stuff going on. And so then what they'll end up doing is they will, fire the pastor and get somebody else that will come in and sort of cater to what it is that they feel like is currently in their pews. And so you have to be willing to talk on these issues. I think another thing that could happen is more frequent conversations like the one that we're having now, but have them at churches. Invite folks that don't go to church. I think one of the reasons that I'm interested in these sort of conversations and collaborating in the Manosphere is because I think I have some approaches to some issues that I think folks would be interested in, that they may be interested in. And also, I'm a Christian. I go to church frequently. And it's not all negative, so to speak. Matter of fact, I wouldn't keep going if it wasn't mostly positive. It's just some of these issues, especially that affect the Black church, they're just, if we don't get this stuff under control, the Black church is going to completely die out. You can't just have women in church, that you don't end up with families that way. And I know that the Democrats have convinced us that when you say Black family, men don't need to be involved in that.
So true.
I know that is the thing. So now when we say Black family, we automatically assume that there's no man. But that's not how you have longevity. And the church should be addressing that head on.
Good stuff. Hopefully that answered your question. Person who asked the question, who I forgot that asked the question. I can't remember who it was, but hopefully you got an answer. Because yeah, that was good stuff. I think the church that you were referring to, I think I actually remember. I think I already knew about that church. I think I did, but I just can't.
I think we may have talked about it in my interview. With you.
Was that about? Would you say that was probably about 12 years? Was this a while ago when he had got 50% men?
Oh, this is a long time ago. This is like 30 years ago. This would have been
okay. All right. Well, no,
it might be longer than that ago. Yeah, this is a long time ago.
Okay. Well, no, I'm thinking of a different church. There was another church. I remember many moons ago when I used to go to church. This would have had to been over a decade ago. My pastor used to talk about how it was some church somewhere that got his congregation up to 50% men, but it was a current pastor who had got his congregation up there like that. But so I didn't know if we were talking about the same one. But some people actually, fight for it and try to do it, and if it works, it works. Hey, hopefully people getting what they need out of it. But Rod of God podcast in the building, one of my newest Patreons. So salute and shout out to him. Excuse me on that. Anyway, excuse me. Gotta take a sip real quick. Hold on. Okay. Rod of God podcast in the building. He says, I agree the Black church have to address men's issues, but another issue is men do not like giving money to enrich. Woo! That's a subject on the table. That's one of the ones on the. In fact, we about to skip. I'm about to skip the list. We're gonna go right to that one. Men don't like giving money to enrich another man. Christ overthrows the money changers' tables. New Testament men of God worked, and collections were taken for the poor. You raise a really good point, and we about to skip. We about to skip ahead because one is right in the show notes. Disproportionate wealth held by ministers. Let's go ahead and go ahead and go in on that one. Let's go.
Okay, so one thing about this, so this has to do with Some of it has to do with the structure and the sort of checks and balances that often is the case that they are very weak or missing altogether. Okay. So for instance, in the Catholic Church, as a priest in the Catholic Church, you have to take a vow of poverty.
Amazing.
Yeah, a vow of poverty. So that means that you can never be enriching yourself from money from the church. Now, it still would be possible for you to take your paycheck, live modestly, and make some investments and do all that kind of stuff. That's fine. But the vow of poverty means that you are not going to be trying to enrich yourself from finances from the church. So this idea of having a parsonage. So a parsonage is a place where the minister lives. Now that sort of has been changed. A lot of these churches, the parsonage is like $1 million house. Okay, that ain't what we talking about when we say parsonage in the context that it's supposed to be, right? So a vow of poverty, you're not going to be getting rich, so you need a parsonage because you're getting such a low salary. Okay, so that's the idea, and that should be the sort of benchmark. What reason are you doing this? Are you doing this because you're trying to stunt with your, you stunting with your Hummer? Is that really why you're in this, or are you in this because there is a job to do and you actually believe in the job? You believe in the ministry, right? So there is that kind of thing. Now, I'm not going to be overly critical about what kind of car somebody drives necessarily, because if you're receiving a salary and as long as you're not doing things to take advantage of the finances of the church, and as long as there are these checks and balances, it is possible that you could invest your money and you could make some good decisions. And it's also possible that you could already have had money before you even started. So I don't think necessarily a one size fits all sort of approach to looking at this works. But I will say this, when in doubt, erring on the modest side sounds like a good idea to me. I mean, especially since so much of this, we have these like stories. It's like a dime a dozen of these kinds of stories where some dude was stealing the money from the church. Dude has 3 Cadillacs, um, and he's wearing like, $5,000 suits and stuff, but the congregation is all poor. Okay. Now look, man, I worked at a church, and I'm not naming names or anything, but I worked at a church where the average income of the parishioner was poverty, under the poverty line. This dude was driving a new BMW. It was like an $85,000 vehicle. The church had given him a Corvette, and he was trying to get the church to give him a jet because he should not be inconvenienced by having to go to the airport. He should have a private jet. All right. Now, he also got him and his wife, they also got bogus doctorates. And so there was some phony accreditation university thing that was circulating and was giving a bunch of ministers these bogus doctorates. And so as soon as they got their doctorates, no longer were the congregants allowed to call him pastor anymore. Had to call him doctor.
Are you talking about Creflo Dollar by any chance?
No. Not talking about crap.
It was it was a question that was out there. I do know that he did have private.
That is an unfortunate name for a minister.
Exactly.
Dollar.
Yeah. But he had a situation too, because he had a church in I think Atlanta and another one in New York, and he needed $2 million or however many $1 million for a private plane to fly him back and forth from New York to or whatever.
It's like, dude, come on, man. You can do the same thing everyone else does. Go to the airport. Just go to the airport. That it's totally ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous.
Okay.
Look, man. And here's the thing. Here's the thing about these bogus degrees and trying to find a different way for another title or another honor to be bestowed to you, so you sound like you're better than other folks, or like this. Especially when that stuff is phony, that stuff is fake. It's like, come on, man.
Come on. Man. Joe Biden.
When that stuff is phony and fake. So here I was. And I hadn't finished. I hadn't even started a doctorate at this point. So I had the master's degree. So here I am. I have actually gone to school and actually done what, met the requirements of getting a master's degree. This dude bragging from the pulpit frequently that he got kicked out of junior college. All of a sudden now he's got a double doctorate. And now I got to call this guy a doctor. And so, but stuff like that is pretty common. It's pretty common. It's more common than it ought to be. And there needs to be a better sort of, there just needs to be, better checks and balances put in place. Well, in the churches that I've worked at that had those checks and balances, that stuff was not going to happen. So, yeah.
Well, let's get into it from this perspective here. Okay, pastors, it's a job. They got to get paid. I get it. And maybe the size of their congregation and in the amount increases that makes the percentage that they take larger. I get that. Even if that gets swept under the rug to some degree. This is the part that I didn't like, and I do want to know your thoughts on this. The scripture that I have this one committed to memory because they repeated it every Sunday and Wednesday and Sunday night, and whenever you stepped foot in the church, it was repeated. Will a man rob God? Yet he robbed me with tithes and offering. Oh wait, damn! It's been a while. I don't remember it no more. But that's how it started out. Will a man rob God? Yet he robbed me in tithes and offering, and something about you're cursed with a curse if you don't pay your tithes, and you're going to open up the floodgates of heaven and pull out a blessing so big that you won't be able to receive it, and the whole works. Right. And then after you pay your tithes,
press down, shaking about, and running over.
And then and you pay your tithes, and then you're told that now that you've paid your tithes, you ain't really done nothing right there. You just gave God what was already his. The only way that you're going to really get that blessing is when you go beyond the tithes and give an offering above the tithes. Right. So to get a whole
sacrificial giving.
Yeah. All right. So
look, man.
Thoughts and your take on that? Because clearly it's manipulation going on there. But the thing is, practically every church repeats that one. That's every Sunday. I mean, so go ahead. What's your thoughts on that?
Okay, so yeah, that's a frequent thing. I've heard that since I was a kid. The tithing principle, it's a good principle. Okay, so I'm not going to totally throw that under the bus. I mean, you should be, supporting things financially that are pouring into you, that are helping you. I mean, obviously, you're getting super chats. You're getting super chats right
that's why I say I understand it, but yeah, I'm not going to tell somebody that they're going to be cursed if they don't.
No, I get you. No, I get that.
They don't send a super chat. Hey, No,
I get that. So my issue is that there is a rampant abuse of that. and then there's tithes, and then there's offerings, right? So you're already given 10%, and then there's are you given a this is like this is a common thing, a gross tithe or a net
Yep.
tithe,
Mm-hmm.
before taxes or after tax. And a lot of these same ministers that are
And hold
sort of
on,
taking
have you
advantage.
heard whether you should give tithe on your gross or on your net? Well, that
Right.
depends. Do you want a net blessing or a gross
That's right.
blessing? Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. Right. And that whole thing. And so there's a lot of fast and loose talk. But then even if you're doing that, then you're supposed to also give above that, right? Because there's offerings. Offerings is not the tithe, right? So tithe is you're already doing that. So this is the extra stuff. So you're going to revival or something, and then the expectation is, well, you're already given your tithe. Now you got to give your offering also. Now, I'm not necessarily against people. Obviously, I'm not against people supporting church. I've worked in churches for a lot of years. Musician, I would have no job
Yeah,
if they didn't do that.
it should receive support. Absolutely.
That's right. They should be supported, but to what extent and how should it be contextualized? Now, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm Orthodox. I wasn't raised Orthodox. I was raised more of kind of charismatic, Pentecostal, Word of Faith, in that kind of stream. And then in that sort of stream, most of the churches that I ended up working at and being involved in were sort of that kind of stream of consciousness. And then, but right before I moved back to where I live, I was born in the city I live. I grew up in Michigan. Then I moved back, and then when I moved back, I that actually came in conjunction with me making some significant changes in the way that I viewed the history of Christianity. And so, in the early church, you had the Eastern Church and the Western Church, but they were all one church. Okay, so the Western Church, that was the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, and then in the East you had the Orthodox Church. Okay, so all one church. And what happened is in 1054, over several issues, but primarily an issue over the primacy of the Pope, the perceived primacy of the Pope by the West. The Western Church split off from the Orthodox Church, from the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, right? And so all of the crusades and all of the innovations in doctrine and all of these different things that happened, that was all post Great Schism. So 1054, the Great Schism, and the Eastern Church remained intact and remained doing the same things. So I actually believe that the one church is the Orthodox Church. And so I align myself with that church. And one thing that's interesting is, as you look at the history of the church and you go back in continuity all the way back to the very beginning, there's an unbroken apostolic succession. So it's not just about documentation, it's also about this sort of word of mouth and sort of master apprentice sort of stuff that can be imparted. In the entire time that I've been Orthodox, which is since 2004, I've not heard one sermon about tithing. I've not heard one sermon about, any of these scriptures that are used frequently in a sort of Protestant sort of context. I've not heard any of that. Now, do people support the church and do people tithe? Yes. But they don't guilt anybody about it. You could be in a situation where you just not in a situation where you can give. You're just not in a situation where you have the money to give. And I have never been prodded. I mean, they have regular giving sort of campaigns and things, but once you make whatever your pledge is, they don't even talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just a different perspective on that. Now, obviously, it's worked out for them because they've been existing for this long. So obviously that works. I think some of the aggressive, asking people to give and to give and to give and changing the service structure and stuff to try to facilitate people to give more is because, I mean, you have these churches, they have these big mortgage payments.
Yep.
Some of these churches are huge, 5,000 seat auditoriums and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to pay your bills? So what it is in my view, mega churches, that's not the biblical model for church. If a church gets beyond a certain size, then it should be all still in communion, all still believing the same things and not getting in squabbles over goofy stuff. But you really should create another church so that maybe the church might have a max of maybe 200 people. You start getting significantly greater in size than that, and then you start having to address other issues. Now, look, man, almost every church that I've worked at was bigger than 200 members. And I'm not saying that you can't be bigger than 200 members and be effective. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, if you look at the biblical model, we know that churches didn't have like 5,000 seat auditoriums.
Yeah.
Okay. And it makes it easier to sort of manage your finances and live within your means if you're dealing with a lesser number of folks.
Well,
so I think there's just less stress about the whole financial thing.
Bishop at the church that I used to attend, he used to bluntly say that, I'm not going to say the name of the church, but he used to say, name of the church. He's basically say this church, let's just say the church is called God's Temple. Okay. He said, God's Temple is a business and I'm the CEO. He would actually say that. And he ran it like a business because he was a businessman before he was a preacher. I think he was a school principal, but he owned a lot of properties and owned a lot of stuff. And he owned a lot of stuff and he got into preaching. I mean, he probably was already preaching anyway, but he decided he was going to expand his operation, so to speak. So he built what I guess would qualify as somewhat of a mega church. I mean, the church, I think it could seat up to 3,000 people, So yeah, and he ran it like a business. He wanted that money. They sometimes had little offering services or whatever. They would do the thing where they need, we need 50 people to get in line to give $50, or sometimes you start with 100 X number of people to get in line to give 100, and then X number of people get in line to give 50. Then behind them, the $20 people, then the $10 people, then the $5, or then after like 20 or 10 or 20 or whatever is like, or just give whatever you can, and then they would get in line, and then everybody would walk around. Keep in mind, everybody is standing the whole time when he's bringing up the different groups to get in line and everything. And it was just and they would do that periodically because they, like, once a month they would bring in some traveling, evangelical dynamic speaker, just come in there and just preach a sermon to just make you feel like you can walk on water. And then after the sermon was over, in order to seal the deal on this blessing, then that's when they need 100 people to get in line with $100, and then X number of people to get in line for the 50. So it was always like so So it was a business, and it was a business. I did say that.
And again, you should support, if you're consistently attending a church, you should support it. Okay. That's not what we're saying. We're given that as a baseline. But if you're specifically bringing people in because you know that people in your congregation give more when that person speaks, I have a problem with that. That doesn't seem to be the right motivation. You should bring people that are going to say things that your congregation needs. Back to the original point, we've got all of this list of things that are not discussed You should bring folks in that are talking on those topics. And guess what? When people that are experts in those fields, when they come in and talk, your giving might go down. That doesn't mean that it wasn't the right thing. So, it might mean that it's just not a happy sermon.
Well, yeah. Well, I look at it like this. Like I know somebody who's a paid motivational speaker, and he runs it like a business.
Right.
Not going to say his name, but let's just say his name is Jerry White. Is Jerry White Motivational is his is the name of his company, and he gets paid X number of dollars a pop to go speak, and he's running it like a business. And yes, and he's giving good information, and people enjoy what he's saying, and they like what he's saying, and he gets paid from the organization. They pay him. He comes in and he speaks, and that's that. So like I get it. I understand it. The only thing I don't like is when you use biblical transcendental manipulation from on high to get people to feel bad if they don't do it. If they don't got the money to do it, that the creator of the universe is going to frown upon you, little peasant, for not giving. that's when it was just rubbing me the wrong way. That's when it was really rubbing me the wrong way. But there's a building, there's a church that we can assume gives people what they need, and you come there and you get what you need from assuming that you can get something from it. If you come in there and you're getting what you need, and I understand, contributing, put something in the pot. That makes sense. That makes sense.
And it's effective. Like if you're supposed to take care of the poor, and you have people that have the money, I mean, yeah, let's pool our resources to take care of such and such can't pay their rent this week, or they can't pay. They can't pay their rent for this month. I mean, that kind of stuff, to me, it seems like that should be a far bigger percentage of how the church spends its money. And if that is how you're spending your money, I think you'll have more people that are going to be willing to give anyway. And you don't have to use guilt trips and kind of underhanded sort of tactics. I mean, you have some of these televangelists and stuff. Oh, yeah. Like, hey, give us $20 and we'll give you this cloth that's got, we're going to anoint this cloth.
The magical,
keep it in your wallet.
The magical spring water that has drops of Mother Teresa's sweat in it. Like it was like all kind of goofy stuff. Yeah. Tavares Wiley in the building, he says, no, Bernard, Paul the apostle, a tent maker by trade, worked to support himself. He didn't rely on tithes and offerings. Were you implying that? Okay, I'm okay. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think we've been saying it's fine for the minister to receive his living from the church, and he's presenting different information.
Well, it's worth pointing out that back during that time there was a such thing as money back then. However, when they tithed back then, it was 10% of their increase, like what they grew in their garden or what.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So it wasn't 10% of your weekly income or money that you made from doing whatever you do to make money. It was 10% of your increase. So that's one thing right there. The Bible never says that you're supposed to be tithing your weekly paycheck. It never exactly says that. That's one thing worth pointing out there as well. Fatal Dose of Sage says, same people who tells you not to follow the laws in the Old Testament use tithe law to rob you. What is tithing according to Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 22 through 29. Yeah, that's a good point right there. It was a while back. It was a while back when I saw somebody broke down who all actually paid tithes in the Bible. I forgot who it was. One group of people that did it, and then it was one other person that did it, and they it wasn't a regular thing. It was like I'm not going to get into it. I didn't research before we started. So I'm not going to get into it. but no, that's a show where somebody can break down. I heard somebody make a really compelling argument that's just that you really shouldn't be even paying tithes. Like I don't know, but I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna leave that alone for now. But definitely. Let's see. We had a number of things, man. We're deep into this thing. We 2 hours in. We haven't even got through most of the things on the list that we were gonna be.
I mean, I'd be game to come back sometime if you're down.
Oh no, yeah, definitely. But let's touch on a few more things.
Sure.
All right.
How about the rampant promiscuity?
Well, no, I was about to go just slightly more slightly more controversial.
Oh, I know what
you
you
got.
doing.
No, you. Okay, I was going to go with the LGBTQRS thing.
Right.
That's something that you have put in the notes that they don't talk about that. So
yeah,
I don't know if you how much time you got? How much time you got?
Well, I mean, how much longer you trying to go?
I mean, I normally do a 3-hour show, so I mean, I
could probably stay till 1.
All right, where we at? 12:16. Okay, good. So yeah, if you could stay to 40 minutes or so. We might open it up.
Oh, that'd be great, man. I'd welcome that. I always enjoy that.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and do that. I'll put the link in there right now. I get the feeling that the Rod of God podcast probably want a piece of this too. So I'll definitely put the link in there. But
Rod of God was on my stream yesterday. And actually, I did a show I did a Thunder's Thought live stream, and it was all about abortion.
Oh, good stuff.
It was all kinds of fuzzy.
Yeah. The link is in the chat. Anybody wants to come on up, but let's go with let's talk about the LGBTQ and the church.
Yeah. So here's my thing. You know, you're never going to hear me say anything against LGBTQ, RS plus, whatever else they're going to add to the list. You're never going to hear me say anything negative about them.
Right.
I don't have any problem with folks. I know folks and have taught students that were from that community, and so that's fine. My issue with respect to church is that there seems to be there's some hypocrisy and some sort of cognitive dissonance. Now consider what certain members of the church have been trying to do to Kevin Samuels, right? So with the gay allegations, oh, this guy's gay, like this. Now, what's interesting is it's a strange sort of thing for a black church that has more or less aligned itself with the Democratic Party and embraced fully feminism and does no talking against certain lifestyles which are clearly not, let's just say they're at least not ideal based on based on the book. But then so you're embracing that, you're not talking against it, you're supporting folks in political policies that support those alternative lifestyles. But then when someone is talking in a way that you don't like, you pull out the gay as a slur.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that doesn't seem to so I have a lot of issues with that. And so there's been some ministers, there've been some folks in the black church that have decided that they're going to make Kevin a target, and they're using some of the same sort of underhanded and kind of dirty strategies to try to get at this cat. as anyone else would. So it just seems to me to be wrong. We know that there's a history of, some flamboyance in the choir, certain kind of flamboyance. We know that is the case.
that's a mild way of putting it.
You're talking about that choir director and the tambourine players and
Right.
carrying on. So that's the thing about it. Not if anybody any black church criticizes Kevin Samuels, they're trying to call him gay. It's like, when did y'all all of a sudden be against gay people? Like, when did this happen?
Right.
Yeah, even if we grant that he's gay, okay, when did that become a problem for y'all?
Now I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna say something to the credit of the black church. The black church has been very much embracing of people that are gay, has loved people despite whatever is going on, and has embraced them. Now, if that starts to impact your doctrine, that's a separate issue, right?
Yeah.
It seems to me that there has been some flirtation with adjustment of doctrine, whereas in the past, we all knew who the gay cats were. We all knew that, but we accepted them. We brought them in, and we're like, hey, this cat, he's a human being. He's trying to live right also, just like the rest of us. All of us have issues, that kind of thing. But when you start to change your doctrine based on that, that's when you start to have an issue. And then this, like I said, using gay as a slur, it's like, dude, that doesn't fit at all.
Yeah, Rod of God. I mean, the Rod of God. I almost called you Rod the God again. Rod of God podcast in the building. Go ahead. You got the floor. You got the mic. You can pick it up either on this topic or any topic that we covered today. You can pick it up wherever you want. So go ahead. You got the floor. You got the mic.
Thank you, brother. Mic check. How I'm sounding?
You can turn up a little bit.
Oh yeah. Let me put in my headphone. Let me see. Put in my headphone. Is this any better?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So y'all can hear me?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
All right. Perfect. Yeah. So no, I wanted to touch on the first topic with the well, not the first topic, but the topic about the giving. First of all, salute to you, Dr. Thunder. Like you said, I was in your stream, man. I always love seeing, another brother in this space, preaching the gospel, coming at it from that perspective. But when it comes to the giving, I do think that's just a huge issue in terms of why so many black men have abandoned the church. We as black men, we sat in these pews for decades, seeing these men who we know were, let's just be honest, usually, they're kind of like, beta men, they're taking advantage of these women, and we're just sitting in here and just enriching them. And we're all coming together and collectively making them very wealthy or rich. And we can see right through. We know they're corrupt. We know what's going on, and that's not judging anybody. But Christ set a standard. And what the issue I think a lot of black men have with black churches is the cherry picking. It's like you can preach the truth when it, benefits you. But when it comes to the truth about giving and the fact that in the New Testament, tithing is an Old Testament thing for children of Israel. That's not a New Testament thing. Giving in the New Testament was to take up collections for the poor. Everyone worked, including Paul. And I think, Bernard, you didn't get Tavares' chat, his super chat. That's what he was saying. He was saying Paul the apostle, who was the man who Christ used to reach all of us Gentiles. He's the reason, it's pretty much Paul was the reason why we are believers to this day. Paul was the main guy, and he worked. He had a job. He was a tent maker. And, all these people were working, and there would be wealthy people who were members who became to be believers, and they would donate their houses or, things like that. But church was, getting together in groups because, of course, you could be murdered for believing if you were of the way. It was people coming together in their homes, people coming together, pulling their resources together to help the poor. It was never about enriching anybody. Paul was poor. And this is a new, this is an end times, as I like to say. This is a last days phenomenon where these churches are, sitting up here trying to enrich themselves. Christ overthrew the money changers. Why? They were trying to sell these doves and these different animals. Oh no, if you want to make this sacrifice, you got to buy this. You know what the Holy Scriptures is saying in that. He's saying, this is never, you turned my father's house into a den of thieves. And so anybody who's going to try to monetize the gospel, your judgment is your judgment. You're going to get what's coming to you. But in terms of the topic of why black men walked away, because we're not going to sit up there and give, these keep it above lesser men all our money to go off and be corrupt when it's not even biblical. It's not even biblical.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing we know is black men are not, we're not into the same stuff that's going to tend to appeal to women, right? So the smoke machine, light show, the attire of the minister, blinged out Cadillac, all of that kind of stuff. That men don't care about any of that stuff. Men care about substance. And so when a minister is leaning hard on that stuff, you know who his constituency is. Yeah. Hood conservative, you want to get in on this?
Yeah, sure. And
Why don't you turn up a little bit?
Oh, give me 1 second here. But thanks for coming in today. This is an interesting conversation. I'm at odds with the church in a certain way. Like I appreciate the intentions of the church, the sort of stated goals of Christianity, if you will. But I'm at odds with what the church is right now. And but that's another thing, because I noticed, like, in this whole like Manosphere thing, there does seem to be like a spiritual component to the whole red pill concept. Like when I heard Roosh V went Orthodox, it didn't really surprise me. It's not that much of a shock, because like I said, I have my own weird like spiritual conversations about what's really right and what's true and why certain things are right. But I wanted to ask you a couple of questions specifically. One, I noticed something recently in the news church, I guess you could say, these millennial churches. The churches are getting woke, and I don't know if you have any experience with this, and I wanted to get you to speak on this a little bit. Do you have any experience with sort of like new doctrine coming into the church? I especially, there's a channel on YouTube I came across called Woke Preacher Clips, and there are so many. I mean, it ranges from the LGBT to just people who appear to be bending the faith to a weird modern political usage. And I wondered if you have any experience with that. And then also too, being that you are Orthodox, I think this is the first time I've ever met a black man who says he's Orthodox. So I'd like to ask your experience with that, as far as like the makeup of black people in the Orthodox church. I don't even know that's a thing.
Yeah, so the Orthodox Church, that would also include like the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, the Coptic Orthodox Church. So the Orthodox Church is all over the place. I mean, the Orthodox Church is the second largest church in the world. The first largest, of course, is the Roman Catholic Church. So it also would include like the Greek Orthodox Church, the Russian Orthodox Church. In America, there's a church, Orthodox Church of America. That's the church I go to. I go there primarily because there was a church that's close to the institution that I work at, and then also Orthodox Church of America. So the everything is in English. There's a Serbian Orthodox Church. There's goodness. I mean, there are, but they're all in communion, so to speak. Okay. Now there is a little bit of thing between the so-called Coptic Church. The Oriental Orthodox Church and the Eastern Orthodox Church, but most of the disagreement is just over some language issues that happened way back around the Fourth Council. Yeah, so yes, I do see exactly what you're talking about. This sort of innovation of doctrine. You know, the idea of the church was never intended to be innovative, but only a direct mouthpiece transmitting unadulterated doctrine as if from the mouth of Christ. Right? So that's the idea of the church. So when you start seeing a lot of these sort of new doctrines, these new things coming up, like this woke stuff that is pretty common in churches now, I would argue that other than maybe the Orthodox Church, I think even the Catholic Church has become, I don't want to say outright woke, but we know that there's a lot of lefties that are Catholics, but definitely it's somewhat influenced by it. But it's hard to find a Protestant church in particular that hasn't in some way sort of bent the knee to some of the sort of modern political movements. So yeah, the LGBTQ thing, you have a lot of churches that are sort of sympathetic to that. In some churches, you have this sort of trending younger terminology, which is totally ridiculous because trending younger is not something that you can actually do, right? Because everyone's getting older. So you can't actually trend younger. But what you can do is you can take risks on untested individuals, putting them in leadership positions. That's something that you can do, and you can reduce the age of the leadership, but you're also going to increase the likelihood that these young, untested, unproven leaders are going to make massive mistakes. And unfortunately, some of this trending younger talk is in sort of mega churches, some of these mega churches. And they're constantly, we don't have enough kids. We don't have enough of this demographic. We don't have enough of that demographic. Well, yeah, I mean, I think over a long period of time, if you have a certain absence of a demographic, I think you can start looking and saying, so what is it that we're doing that's chasing certain folks away? But I think to sort of preemptively start talking this sort of trending younger kind of foolishness, that doesn't seem to be the right approach to that problem.
Let me ask you a follow-up question to that. Not so much the trending younger thing, but one, what can, in the face of all of this wokeness, right? It's very anti-male, let alone white male, because it's openly stated, anti-white. But if once they're done with whatever white men are into, next comes black male interests, in my opinion, anyway, and with this anti-male posture that's sort of taken over most of culture, and especially in churches even, and the black churches is kind of notorious for that, I think. What would be the male solution for that? Because it doesn't feel like a welcoming of a place as it should be for your average man.
Yeah, so a lot of this stuff sort of started a long time ago with this sort of multiculturalism sort of movement that you see in a lot of churches. And a lot of churches started saying, hey, we want to see, people at our church from all of these other countries, and from, we want to see, diversity. It's basically kind of like the whole diversity and inclusion thing, and then evaluating your success based on how many you know, different kind of people that you have at your church service, how many different sort of age groups, you know. The reason that I think that the trending younger thing is directly related to what it is that you're asking is because younger folks, especially untested younger folks, they're going to tend to sort of whatever the sexy new thing is, that's going to be the thing that they're going to be interested in. And right now, that sexy young thing is this wokeness. You know, I've heard you know, ministers at some of these big churches that are not considered to be necessarily liberal kind of churches, but pretty conservative, traditional kind of churches. I've heard them say stuff like, "Yeah, you know, I think that the church should support legalized marriage for gay folks." You know, now look, that's not a traditional view. It's just not, and it's nowhere in the history of the church. Now, but if you don't know this already, this is coming. It's coming down the pike. Politicians in government is going to start pushing on these churches. And the ones that have already sort of embraced a lot of the wokeness, they're going to be the first ones to bend the knee and say, okay, we'll do this because we cherish our tax exempt status. We're in a strange situation right now. But the multiculturalism stuff is an interesting sort of beast because most of the churches that I'm talking about, they tend to be sort of like big, like evangelical, like kind of white churches, like the leadership is white, but then they embrace this multiculturalism thing. So then it's like this, almost like this self-hating thing. Well, I'm a white male, so who am I to be leading? It could be the cat that founded the church, you know. But out of the other side of this is that they're the ones that are saying these are the values. We want to have all of these diverse kind of groups of folks, you know, present and like this. But then they're still the ones controlling who they ask to come in. They're not relinquishing any of the authority. So it becomes a whitewashed version of diversity, a whitewashed version of you know, quote unquote multiculturalism. And that's the problem. That's the general problem with multiculturalism, is that it seeks to create this supposed equality, you know, of everyone. And we know that certain cultures are superior to others with respect to outcomes, consistent outcomes.
Let me make this one last comment, and then I'll pass the floor to someone else. Though this whole notion of the woke church, though, if the church is moving in a almost openly anti-white male direction, but most of the church, all of the church fathers, maybe not all, let me not say all, but the overwhelming majority of the church fathers, where you get your doctrinal interpretations of things, the principles that the church has stood on for years now, for generations now. If you're throwing out white men, what does that mean to scripture and church doctrine that you've stood on for generations?
Actually, I'm not going to say most, but a lot of the church fathers were not white, actually. So when you say church fathers, if you're talking about, you know, church fathers, you know, before the 5th century, before the 4th century, like that, you're talking about folks that were from all over the place. I have an icon that's in my, actually, I don't have it here. Maybe I can find a picture of it, but it's an icon. It's a common icon called Saints of Africa. A lot of the critical saints and critical forefathers, critical early church fathers were actually African. That's a side issue, though. But I take the heart of your point in that really we should be evaluating the work. You know, we should be evaluating the work and not what the person looks like that did the work. You know, because that's an issue. That's not really a masculine frame. Men tend to be able to look at the work and evaluate the work. Yeah. maybe another indication of how far things have kind of slid.
Fatal.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, where you at, man?
Sounds like he's checking out.
Can you hear us? Fatal, we can hear you. Can you hear us? All right, I'm gonna mute him up. I'm buying some sausages. Okay. All right. Shout out to Deacon Dave with the super chat. Appreciate that. Appreciate you coming on through. Appreciate everybody.
Hey, I need to see super chat Jesus make an appearance.
Super chat. Yeah, Fatal, I gotta mute you, dude. I gotta mute you. I might have to drop you down. You sound like you washing dishes in a New York alley, and I heard a body drop. Somebody got mugged. All kind of stuff going on back there.
What Fatal doing, man?
You're gonna have to explain that one. But no, I missed a lot of the conversation when I had to step away. So I don't know where y'all was at, but Deacon Dave, appreciate the super chat. I shouted it out, didn't even read what it said. He says, for the roof fund, the name of black church that don't have a roof fund. No, they just call it the building fund. That's gonna be the church don't got a damn doorknob, but it had a building fund for the last 20 years. Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. Snuggles just sent a $500 donation for Super Chat Jesus to come up. She sent a thought to count Super Chat. So yeah, y'all can. I don't know where y'all was at. So somebody could take it. Anybody want to jump in?
We were basically just talking about the sort of woke movement in churches.
Oh, okay. Did y'all touch on the non-denominational churches and how, because those are the ones, if I'm not mistaken, that try to embrace the most wokeness. They say they're not a denomination, but they kind of are, but they kind of not. But it is just confusing. They basically just preach a bunch of feel-goodery. I don't know, but go ahead.
Non-denominational or interdenominational is a marketing strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Those churches are using that. They are a denomination. It just happens to be called non-denominational or interdenominational. But yeah, they have a really specific sort of. There's a tendency to have certain doctrinal beliefs and likely to be more sensitive to some of these kind of movements because their overseeing structure is independent. So it's like, hey, the Lord told me to start this church, and so I'm the final authority on if we're doing stuff right or not.
I think it all ties in. I think the whole issue with the wokeness ties in with the same issue that black men have when it comes to the money. You know, it's just churches, first of all, just have just completely gotten away from what a church is. Number one, a church is not a building. Each member of the body of Christ is a part of the church. It's not a building. And, you know, they just completely just, perverted what the intention was of the church. It was for believers to come together, you know, fellowship, read some word, support and encourage each other because the church was under great persecution. And, you know, it definitely seems like that is the best way that the church can flourish. And that's the best way, to be honest, in my opinion. That's sometimes it occurs to me that that's the best way for black people to flourish. It's almost like we have to be under intense persecution in order to get along and get back to our purpose that God created us for. And I think the same thing applies to the church. I think, you know, the more that the church became accepted, the more, you know, corrupted it became. And you have pastors that won't even go on the pulpit and say it is a sin to be gay. Let's just say it. It's according to the Christian faith, it is a sin not to be gay. It is a sin to have sex with someone of the same sex. And you can't even get a church to say that. And for me, I don't even see the big deal.
Time out. That's an interesting dynamic. I don't think I've heard. Well, let me just tease it out. Okay. You're saying it's not necessarily a sin to be gay, but it's a sin to have sex with somebody of the same sex. Meaning,
when I say that, sorry,
I'm assuming that means that if somebody is gay in the sense that they are sexually attracted to the same sex, but they just choose not to partake. So that's what you mean. It's not a sin that he's sexually attracted to the same sex. It's just a sin that it's only a sin.
Think that's
sin
not
if he
what
engages.
I meant. That's
okay,
not what I meant. Let me clarify. So what I meant is, if a person is gay, that person isn't a walking around sin if they have a sexual attraction. I think these sexual attraction, what sin means is missing the mark. That's what the word sin means. You miss the mark. And so, yes, to be attracted to someone of the same sex, that is missing the mark. The point I was making is that person isn't a walking around every day, every breath that they're take, they're a sin. You get that point? You see what I'm saying kind of there? But to actually engage in...
You guys are familiar with he was kind of popular on the right-wing circuit a couple years ago, Milo Yiannopoulos. He's like so you guys are familiar with the character. You know, he recently just came out as like straight. Like he came out.
What? How you come out straight?
No, dude, this is what the fuck. Like, listen, he says, and then he was like, I think he had a black husband. It's all weird shit. But he said, he wants to be straight now. And so, like, to follow up on what you're saying, like, I don't think he can ever not be gay. Like, if you see the person that he is, he'll never not be that guy. But I guess he's going to stop fucking black guys. So, I mean, I guess that's
basically the word doesn't get into like your sexual preference. The word doesn't get into your sexual preference. The word gets into what you do with that sexual preference, whether you're sitting around looking at something and thinking about it, or you're actually doing it physically. The word doesn't get into the preference itself, but so that's what I meant is that, you know, hey, the bottom line is to lay down with somebody of the same sex is a sin, and the church won't even say that. And I don't see what the big deal is, because there are lots of sins that people commit. You know, I think that they're afraid of just dealing with it as that yes, it's a sin. And so, yes, that means you should not do it. That's what God has said. And just leave it at that. And don't be afraid of being labeled a homophobe.
Yeah.
Mr. Chambers, he says the church is trending younger because they are less religious, which means less influence for the church over time. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Shane Vicious. Go ahead, Dr. Thunder. You was about to say something.
Hey, can I jump in here a second?
Yeah. Wait, before you jump in, you got to explain what was going on. It sounded like you were in an alley washing dishes and we heard a body drop. Is everybody okay?
Nah, everybody's good, man. So I got this Jabra noise canceling headset, the Jabra Engage 75, which it works really well, except when I jumped on, it actually picked up my laptop mic instead of my noise canceling mic. So you were hearing the baristas in Starbucks making drinks and stuff.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I want to say salute to the doctor. I've met quite a bit of folks from the Orthodox Church, and they are much more informed than any of the other church. But I got to jump in here because I'm hearing Rod the God say that your preference isn't in question. When I heard him say before that, if a man even thinks about another woman, fantasize about another woman, it's adultery. So it's okay for two dudes to fantasize about each other, but not okay for a man to fantasize about a woman. So I'm kind of confused.
That's where I was going with it.
Twisting my words yet again. A man's preference, the fact that a man prefers a woman is not at issue. It's what he's doing, looking on a woman and thinking about it. And I said the same thing applies to a gay man. If just him being gay, no. But if he's looking at a man, imagining it, yes. So no, Fatal Dose, yet again, you lose.
Sounds like you're confused, bro, because...
No, you're confused.
Bro, let me finish.
You're doing the same thing you always do. You're always trying to put something off on me, bro. Like, come on.
That's exactly what you said, bro. You're not going to be able to...
Okay, well, rewind the tape, and then we'll go over it then, okay?
All right, so
have a good day.
Let me ask the question then, right? What is effeminization? Because according to Paul, effeminate men and men that conduct themselves, men that abuse themselves with mankind will not enter into the kingdom of heaven. So if a man is fantasizing or thinking about being with another man, not even fantasizing, if he's gay, that's effeminate. So how is that okay?
No, you preach. Go, you preach. I don't talk with people who are disingenuous. Go ahead, preach your sermon. Tell us. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, just like a Christian. I didn't expect anything else from you.
Can I try the question from this angle?
But just tell us, Fatal Dose, tell us what you're getting at. Just, I don't mean to cut you off, Dr. Thumb. Let's let him tell us what he's getting at so that we can all be clear. Go ahead, Fatal Dose. Preach your sermon.
What I'm getting at, you're disingenuous by saying it's okay for a man to be gay as long as he's not doing the act. How is one separate from the other?
Right.
You tell us
I think here, if I can say something that I think maybe this will provide some clarity. There's a difference between the so-called orientation and if you are acting on that orientation or not. And
exactly.
There are, look, I'm not sure how much I buy into this because they did this supposed, and this, I guess this was way back in the 70s where they did this study, and supposedly it showed that, that you're born gay or you're born straight. Supposedly that's what they found, and that was reported and used as gospel, and even to this day, people cite that study. But what they don't cite is the fact that because science is supposed to have a principle called falsifiability. So when they ran this study, this research again and again, they falsified the original results. So what it shows is that there is no actual evidence that you're quote unquote born gay or not. So everything is, so it's not an issue of nature. It's all an issue of nurture. It's stuff that happens to you when you're growing up. It's other things. Now, is it possible for someone to still have a certain orientation? In maybe, and I'm not here to say definitively, what every human person, what's in their heart of hearts. But what I will say is that, if you are not acting on whatever that orientation is, then you're not going to be held accountable for having done so. It's like an alcoholic, right? If someone is an alcoholic, they identify themselves as an alcoholic, but they just say, hey, I'm just not going to engage in drinking alcohol. They're still an alcoholic, but they're not practicing as an alcoholic. I think maybe that would provide a little clarity as to, I think, what Rod of God was saying.
So here's the issue I have with that explanation, though, right?
Okay.
I mean, the question is there's a question of lust. What is it that these men are doing? Is that when Paul talks about inordinate affection in Romans 1?
Yes.
Right. We can't ignore that because that was
no.
dealing
I'm not
with
ignoring
this.
that. I still think that lust is a so there's a difference between a thought that you that sort of enters your mind and you sort of actively pursuing certain thoughts or contemplating, or like for instance, if a gay guy is trying to, I'm trying to live right, I'm trying to do right, whatever. If the gay guy is watching gay porn, then that's probably not the way to to live uprightly. But if that same gay guy is like, okay, I'm not participating in certain things, I'm staying away from things that are going to inflame certain patterns that I know about myself, then again, it would be like anyone that had an addiction that was seeking to better themselves and not participate in that addiction any longer. I think you can draw a parallel line with pretty much any sin. For men, it would be like, okay, well, I'm not going to hang out. So I'm married and I'm trying to just be with my wife. So I'm not going to hang out late at night at clubs and at strip clubs because I know that that's probably going to promote certain behavior and I don't want to be an adulterer.
But that's a false equivalency, right? Because we got to go back to Romans 1, because Romans 1 specifically addresses that issue. And when it's addressing it, it addresses it as an inordinate affection and and describe the imagination itself, the thought of it itself as evil. So thinking about it and doing it isn't separate. It's all in one. I mean, before you
wait a minute. How do you know what someone is thinking, though?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm not talking about the individual person. I know what they're thinking, but what I'm saying is, we can't separate the two, right? Because it begins with the imagination and the affection, and then which leads to the act. Now, I'm not talking about any specific individual, but as it's doing a disservice to then rewrite scripture and based on our feelings and our thoughts, and ignore what the man wrote, 2,000 years ago.
Well, according to you, you don't think about anybody other than your wife, so you're not.
What does this have to do with me, bro?
I'm going to say something too, because I feel like I'm kind of in the middle between. The more that I hear the discussion, more that we're talking, I'm thinking that maybe I'm sort of in the middle. I do think it is different. A gay orientation is different than a straight orientation, where maybe you're still having thoughts about some other woman, but you're married. I still think that is different than, because one of them is, people can clip me. I'm trying to find a way to say something so I can't be clipped so easily. But if you are, one of them is against nature. Okay, one of them doesn't have the potential to produce life. One of them is not a quote unquote natural orientation, and certainly at least is not an orientation that is the default or considered to be the due to design, right? Where the other is not. So there never can be a total equivalency between those two things. One of them at least is natural, though it is still wrong, and the other one is both unnatural and would be wrong too. And I don't know if that's a way to sort of,
facts.
To
I think
split
that's
this.
bars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's something I wanted to try to add into this, because I think we're sort of skipping past a certain point here, and you're talking about sin is really where I wanted to take it. If you're gonna say that lust in itself is a sinful thing, then what you're also saying is that the sin, the crime, occurs in your mind. And that I mean, maybe that's a particular problem for a gay person, but again, that's like, I think that's just your cross to bear. If you're a gay person who wants to come back to the church, as they say, then you have to battle your own mind, so to speak. That's just your deal.
Right.
But we all do. We all have to battle our own minds. Just because we don't have that particular proclivity, we still have our own battle. We all have our demons. It's really no different in terms of not, making an equivalency, like Dr. Thunder was saying, but in terms of just the bare bones of it, that we are all fighting against our impulses, whether they're natural or unnatural. So it's the same when you think about it like that.
Yeah, the only small difference is that gay person, there is no way within the confines of the religion that he could ever truly scratch that itch. A straight person who just has a lustful, sinful heart, okay, he could marry a woman that he lusts after, and then within the confines of the religion, he could scratch the itch with her. That gay person can never scratch that itch. Now, if you want to say within the confines of the religion, you want to be a Christian, hey, sorry, that's your burden you got to bear.
It's the burden.
But
It's their cross.
It's a
We all
bigger,
gotta bear a cross.
it's a bigger, heavier cross than the cross of the guy who just.
This might be a little improper, but I really think that's why monasteries were a thing. You had to do something with those guys.
I don't think it's a bigger cross. I disagree, Bernard. You know why? Because to be honest, heterosexual men have a lot more temptation, and on top of that, we have, because it's natural, right? It's very easy to do it and with a clearer conscience. So I think it's a bigger cross for heterosexual men.
All right. I mean, listen.
When society accepts you for what you like, you know, it's like it's much easier to go and do that thing, right? I mean, come on, like how many men can have sex with many women as they want to? You know, it doesn't seem that way with gay men. I don't know. I mean, they have to worry about diseases. I mean, I guess we all have to worry about diseases, but it's like I think the heterosexual man has a much bigger cross to carry. I'm sorry, I don't co-sign on that.
All right. Sick Lid in the building. He says, it's a sin to have sex with a woman who is not your wife and she gives you anything you want. Okay. Charles Merchant in the building says that demonic black church will never expose feminism because they are in bed with them 501c3. Thank you, Charles Merchant.
Yeah, that's that tax exempt status.
I think Ike said something like he wants, in his heart he wants to kill Bernard. He said he can't. Well, he can't kill Bernard even if I want to. It's my cross to bear. Sorry, got to bear that cross. John Guillory says, great topic, brother. Salute Bernard and Dr. Thunder and the panel. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
I think it's pronounced Guillory.
Guillory. Yeah. Okay. Close
Guillory.
Enough. Close enough. Oh, Ike want me to. Ike got all that money, but he's still a part of the $10 nation. He told me to play the $10 clip.
What do we get for $10? Everything you want. Everything. Everything.
Rod of God podcast says his phone died, yet he still typed in here. Something I must have typed on the computer. I don't know. You go pay your bill, man. Go pay your bill. You got a lot. You're amongst friends. You're amongst friends, man. Just go pay your bill, man. Just go pay the bill. We it's all good. It's all good. I cash app you a couple. If you need some help, I cash app you a couple dollars. You need some help on that cell phone bill, man. I got you. But we about to wrap this on up. I didn't know we was gonna get I won't say something that would have been worthy of a pause. But no, it's an interesting topic, but not a hot button issue for me when it comes to gay people, when it comes to gay Christians. It's interesting. It's an interesting topic, and I have always struggled to figure out how they navigate that, how they're Christian and still gay. I still don't 100% get it, but it is what it is. It's like we already talked about. It's not my cross to bear, but either way, it's still interesting. But Dr. Thunder, is there anything you want to take us home with, man? I definitely enjoyed this conversation. Moderators, drop the link to Dr. Thunder's channel in the chat one last time before we get up out of here.
Hey, since I know John Guillory is in here, and I think I have I got to go 5D on it. I got to go 5D.
What you got going on there?
This is my 5D. This one Dr. Thunder. This is Dr. Thunder 5D. You don't know about this yet.
Okay, yeah, I'm late.
So yeah. So thanks again, Bernard, for for welcoming this topic. It is a spicy topic. Again, I think it is critical for the Black church and the Black Manosphere to actually have more of these kinds of conversations, because traditionally speaking, the Black Manosphere has a lot in common with the Black church. So with that, I am going to let go of the mic.
Give us like 30 seconds on that organ real quick. Go to drop
okay.
back in
Well, wait a minute.
Drop back in that 5D.
Sure,
Give us like 30
sure.
seconds on it.
Sure.
Ooh, yeah. All right. We're about to get up out of here. I threw some Jodeci on there. All right, y'all. We're about to get up out of here.
All right.
Oh, all right.
It's like Minister Jap. It's like Minister Jap, but like actually playing the organ.
Right on. Yeah, definitely. But look, this is a good show. Definitely a great show today. I'd like to thank everybody who participated in any way, shape, or form. Whether you like, shared, subscribed, hit the Cash App or the Super Chat, or if you just watched in indifference. AMC is going to the moon. Oh man, listen. I can't tell you what to do with your money. I only can tell you what I did with mine. I recently put 4,000 on AMC, and I'm almost at a $2,000 profit. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I can't tell what you do with your money. I only can tell you what I did with mine. But yeah, AMC is blowing up. Is going to the moon. Shout out to Sub-Zero. Me and him had a conversation on the phone right after I got off the phone with him. I put some money on. I already had a little bit on it, but then I put a little bit more on it. I threw 2,000 on it, and then the next day came around and I threw 2,000 more, and it is growing. It's growing like crazy. So definitely do your thing. Do your research on the on where to invest your money. Don't listen to me, but I'm just telling y'all what I did and how it worked out. But all right. Look,
I think I saw Doug Pierce, Dr. Doug Pierce in here. I think I did. I just want to shout him out.
Cool.
That's my man.
Shout out to Dr. Doug Pierce. C. White, he says, why hasn't the black church interpreted and written their own version of the Bible since the Christian denominations have? I don't know if I even follow.
Yeah, that could be a really deep conversation. Maybe that's something that we could talk about later.
Yeah, that's above my pay grade. I don't know. I don't know what to do with that one. But but with that said, yeah, we are out of here. Peace.
All right now.